Hello, everyone, and welcome to our session today on enterprise community platform trends. So, some of you might notice that the title of this webinar has changed, and there's a reason for that. The reason for that is that late on Friday evening, I received a letter from legal representatives of Khoros, or a legal firm that Khoros has retained in the UK. How do I say it? Saying that some of what I've said about Khoros over the past couple of months, they believe to be defamation, spreading malicious falsehoods, and tortious interference. I.e., when I said people should leave Chorus, they saw that as tortious interference. So I've spent a lot of time the last few days just really debating whether to go forward with this webinar. Because on the one hand, I I think that their case is weak. I think the letter is pure intimidation, and I just don't like that. On the other hand, I don't want to spend the next couple of weeks, months, however, dealing with this from a legal perspective. So I spent a lot of yesterday talking to a solicitor, and I've had to change a couple of things about this. And you'll notice that there'll be some changes in the webinar structure, not massively, but let me just be clear about a couple of things. So we're going to begin with a disclaimer. The views and analysis shared in this session are based on my professional experience, independent research, and conversations within the industry. They represent my opinion and interpretation of market trends, not inside information or definitive statements of fact about any specific vendor. Attendees should consider this information as guidance to support their own decision making, not as a statement of fact about current or future company performance. Okay, so now we've got that out of the way. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into some of these things. I don't want to do a preamble on this legal side because I think it's annoying, but I do think there's a couple of things to dwell here. Also, I just think it's a crappy thing to do. I really think it's a crappy thing to do, especially when I've tried incredibly hard to engage them in an open way. Several times I've tried to ask them to participate in a webinar, and every time they've seen open and keen to do it. When someone from Course identifies themselves as working for Course, I put together the questions that we've been getting from clients that over 100 people here liked and wanted responses as well. And the response was, we generally can't respond to anything at all. But I have noticed in the letter itself, and again, I don't want it to make it about me because I don't think I'm that interesting, but there's a couple of things we should probably address at the beginning of this. One, from the letter itself, is am I telling lies? And am I doing it with, sorry, am I biased against Chorus? And am I doing this for financial gain? So let's talk a little bit about how this works. With regards to do I benefit from saying bad things about Chorus? No, honestly, it's a lot better to build closer relationships with vendors than criticize them. Generally speaking, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only consultant that doesn't take referral fees from any of the platform vendors. And you can ask any of the platform vendors, I don't do it. I don't take a cut of the revenue because I don't want it to bias my opinion. But that said, it is worth disclosing some of the relationships that I do have with vendors because there are some. So in the past, I've worked with Chorus. I think actually the most money I've received this year from any vendor was from Chorus. So if anything, I should be biased in their favor. I think also we've worked with HigherLogic. I think I spoke at the HigherLogic event. They sponsored our course in the past. Gainsight have sponsored a couple of things that we've done, the courses, the Buzz Report. Verint, I don't think I've ever had any financial engagements with Verint. Discourse, the current CEO of Discourse used to work for us. Bevy, I don't think I've received, oh no, because they own CMX, I think they've paid me for a workshop or two that I've done there at times. So on the one hand, you could say I've got so many conflicts of interest, it's hard to know where to begin. But really, it's such a tiny fraction of the revenue that we earn, and it's just ridiculous. So we're going to go ahead. And also, the other thing to think about whether we make any money from this is essentially no. Like most of the money in a platform change goes to the platform vendor and the company that's helping them make the migration, not to the consultant that's advising them which platform to use. There are times when it does happen where we do go through the process of helping a client select the right platform for them, but really it's such a tiny fraction of, it's such a tiny fraction of what we earn. It's barely worth even thinking about. And the reality is, if that was the case, then I should be doing this all the time. I should be recommending every company move from every platform all the time. And I don't, because that's simply not the case. There's a reason why we're talking about Chorus now. And even as recently as this year, as recently as May, I was helping support them, promote them. I've known Chorus for over 15 years. I knew Dennis and Lau Fong from the gaming space before they even started the organization. So I've always been keen to promote the company. Doesn't mean I don't criticize them as well as I do with other platform vendors that are out there. But yeah, we all know that something major has changed. Even last year or the year before, when we did the Community Platform Wars series, I felt they were a great platform, a very solid and reliable bet. A Buzz report, I think they ranked second on the platforms we were considering. We actually ranked them higher than their customers did. And even when they were acquired, I made a cheap joke right at the beginning, but I was cautiously optimistic. I felt the uncertainty wasn't good. But we all know what's happened recently is that Chorus have laid off the entire staff, and that's when I'm concerned. And looking into ESW Capital, speaking to past companies, there's some major concerns I have about the organization at the moment and the impact that's going to have on customers and those of you on Chorus. And by the way, if any of you are on Chorus and want to share your experience since the acquisition, feel free to do it in a chat. So my concerns come from three places. One, past acquisitions by ESW, who own IgniteTech of Jive and Influitive, where there's a loss of platform expertise, a decline in the platform, CSMs unfamiliar with the product, and a sharp increase in fees. Experience of customers since the acquisition as well. So what I've been hearing since the acquisition is a lack of response to support tickets, CSMs that are unfamiliar with the product and a rotating group of CSMs. So customers are now training the staff. A lot of the clients are now being pushed to move to Aurora, even though they feel it's not ready yet. A growing number of Chorus customers recently have been talking about the outages on the site. And one or two, and I don't know if this is a trend yet, have reported being charged significantly increased fees. And then there's the experiences of people working at IgniteTech, not specifically at Chorus, but at the company. Speaking to some of the Chorus employees after the acquisition as well, some of the things they noticed was lack of information and communication. Everyone now not staff, so no benefits. Criticism of payment fees for people that work internationally. And there's too few people trying to do too many things. And this is all supported. If you look at the reviews on Glassdoor, I think these were the last 5. You might want to check that with the link below or just look it up yourself. But yeah, it doesn't get that much worse. And I think that quote on the far right feels very similar to what's happening here, where it's an organization which, in my opinion, let's be clear about the disclaimer, they buy companies or distressed organizations, lay off the staff, and try to squeeze every penny, as this quote says here, out of the company before it leaves. And one of the things that's really bugged me about this is just how petty the legal side of it is. Honestly, threatening to remove me from LinkedIn if I go ahead with the webinar is, yeah, it's petty, but it's a kind of organization that we're dealing with today. So that's the background of this and what I'm coming at this from. So I'm going to be a little bit cautious in how I share things, say things, but honestly, whatever happens, happens. If I lose my LinkedIn account, this is probably why. At the same time, we're going to go ahead because I think where I see myself in this place is, and I also, by the way, I don't think I'm that important at all. I think they've grossly overestimated how important I am. Is that I think I can provide an independent voice of someone that isn't a client and isn't an employee and doesn't take referral fees. And I think that's where I try to be here. Anyway, we've gone through the boring stuff, but let's hear from Chorus customers. So what I'm going to do is try and run a poll, and I don't usually run polls on Zoom, but I'm really keen to hear about some of your experiences. This is my opinion. Let me just run the poll. Let me know if this poll works for you. If you're a customer of Chorus right now, take a second just to give me your response to this. So since the acquisition by IgniteTech, has Chorus gotten a lot better, somewhat better, stayed about the same, somewhat worse, or a lot worse? And I'll share the answers in just a second. So Chorus customers only, share your opinion. Let's get the responses of everyone. I'll give you another 10 seconds and then we will see what let me share it and see what we have. So from what I can see, yeah, universally a lot worse. Everyone said it's gotten a lot worse, stayed about the same, yeah. So since the acquisition, no one thinks it's gotten better. Everyone thinks it's gotten a lot worse. Let me try one more poll as well while we're here. Polls and quizzes. So question number 2, what do you plan to do? And we'll give maybe a minute for this. What do you plan to do? This is an anonymous poll, by the way. And according to my solicitor, one of the great things about this is that it's not my opinion. That's why going the legal route is so dumb, honestly. I'll give it another 20 seconds and then I'll share the results. What do you plan to do? I think we're done. Let me share the results. We've got definitely leaving 31%, likely leaving 44%, undecided 19%, likely staying 6%. Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Final poll of the day. This is for everyone. Let me just go back. For everyone, if you are not currently using Khoros, would you consider migrating your community to the platform in the future? Let's quickly do a poll. So how many people still think it's a viable option at this point? And I'll give it maybe another 20 seconds. So everyone can participate in this poll. Okay, I think everyone that's going to participate has. Let me share the results. So what do we have? 72% not at all, 26% unlikely, and a couple of people, 2%. Oh, just one person would consider it. Okay. So I think that paints its own picture, right? Of where perception is at, what people are planning to do. Let me just full screen this again. So I think this is where we're at the moment. For me right now, Chorus isn't a platform I would consider. I think if you look at the old guard, and we'll go to the new guard a bit later on, I think Verint, HigherLogic, Gainsight, and Discourse are probably the only real ones I would consider from the old guard. Salesforce, I definitely wouldn't consider at this point. I'm going to try and pay attention to chat, but we've got a lot to go through. Yeah, the poll responses were anonymous. An option in Zoom for that. So let's go through what the options are and how we're thinking about it at the moment. So Discourse, how many of you are on Discourse today? A couple of you on Discourse? Yeah, some of the feedback in chat is pretty remarkable. So Discourse, I actually like as a platform. Again, disclosure, like Sarah Hawk, CEO, you used to work for us, so bear that in mind. Discourse I really like. I like the staff, I like the team, and the communities are actually very flexible. Like with the local guides community, for example, I think what they offer is a very flexible experience. I think as a forum, it's probably the best pure forum software at the moment today. Shopify as well. Who else is on there? Shopify, I think, have their dev community and their main community on there. Generally, it's good. Discourse, I really like for what it is. The challenge, I think, with Discourse is when you try to go beyond what it is, and that's where I think some people run into trouble. I also like what Discourse have done recently. They've adapted to the left-hand navigation. They've done more of a feed-centric experience. I think all this is exactly where things need to go. I think on the AI side, they're making great leaps and bounds. So as a platform, I think Discourse is generally great. I think as a pure forum platform, as you see, I think it's the best out there today. The price point just means you can launch quite quick and cheap. We've used it with some of our clients and scale from there. It's very flexible. I'm often surprised by just how flexible and customizable Discourse is with all the plugins and integrations. It's also a open source experience as well, so you can host it yourself if you want. That's not particularly what I'm referring to here. And their use of AI is being pretty good so far. The cons, I think, is when you try to go beyond the forum. Like if you want like a knowledge base, if you want certain kinds of integrations that other sites will offer you, ideation, things like that. I don't think Discourse does as well here. I think they're focused on software. They've always been a product-led organization, which means I don't think their services team are as strong as Chorus used to be, probably where Gainsight and HigherLogic are today. I also think very often the platform out of the box, there's so much going on that can be quite cluttered for casual audience. Some of the user testing that we've done means people get so confused because there's so much you can do. And so I think a lot of Chorus is just kind of a lot of discourse. I need to get this right. It's about removing that. And that also means it's tricky to admin. Like the back end of Discourse isn't the most user-friendly experience. And it doesn't natively go with a lot of CRM, CSAT, or support deflection experiences, but it's very strong in many areas. So I like it. It's definitely a platform I would consider. HigherLogic or vanilla HigherLogic. How many people are on this site, on this platform? HigherLogic Thrive. Yeah. Thrive is the association platform, right? Okay, there's a lot of discussion in chat. I'm just going to continue the webinar, but I might come back to it at the end if we have time. Vanilla, I've always liked the team at Vanilla, even after the acquisition, those that stayed I've really liked. I think HigherLogic have been through a journey where a lot of the senior leadership team left, and I think the product, in my opinion, got very neglected. And I think since the return of the team, I think I've really seen a renewed emphasis on improving the product, improving the marketing, and really getting back on track. So I'm very excited with where HigherLogic is going at the moment. And I think possibly as the most, in terms of the feature set, they're the most for Chorus at the moment, especially if you're with some customizations. I think HigherLogic is a very good option. I think they've got a good track record of working with clients. I think their sales team have calmed down a lot, so they're easier to collaborate with in that respect. I really do like what they do. I think they are integrating AI well. And I just think their track record is good. I think they're not perfect. They've still got a lot of things to work on. But I think they've definitely improved a long, long way. And some of the clients they've got are quite good. I still think a lot of the community sites they have are a bit samey, a bit too similar to one another. But looking at the back end and the demo I've had with them, I really like where it's going. And by the way, any vendors that are in the session, feel free to participate in chat. I won't moderate chat unless obviously I have to, but feel free to jump in and correct anything I'm saying. So yeah, I mean, I think their communities are good. I do think if there's a criticism, and I have a few, yeah, maybe the design always feels a little bit meh to me. I don't know if it's just my opinion. I just feel like, yeah, it's a little bit meh. I think HigherLogic is a very user-friendly experience on the front end and back end. The association site, I think that's Thrive. I actually don't like that much, but I think the vanilla one is quite strong. I think it's very good at the enterprise level. I really love how granular you can get with things like the permissioning, custom post types, automation. I think their moderation is strong. I think they've got a very clever use of AI to boost participation in a community. Yeah, I think some of the cons, I should say custom post types. I think there are some limits in theming and customization. I think whereas you can go deep within the features, I think sometimes the design is just feels a little bit weak to me. And I think the analytics don't always have the right filtering and grouping that some people want. And I think there's still some feature gaps to resolve. But generally, I really like where HigherLogic is going with vanilla. And I think maybe as the most like for like alternative, if you want nothing to change, then vanilla is probably a good option to consider. The other major option to consider is Gainsight. How many of you are with Gainsight right now? Julian just moved to Gainsight and loving it. Ryan is loving it. Interesting. And what do you think? Do you like it? Yes, I am recording this session. I think one of the most apparent things once Chorus went the way it did is how quickly Gainsight, with Erica heading up the strategy now on the product side, how quickly they moved to recruit a lot of the best talent and how quickly they are investing in really getting up to par with the parity of features that Chorus had. I really like Gainsight are doing. And they've got a good track record of the communities that they're working with. I think at the moment, they're not quite at parity in the breadth for the granularity of features of maybe HigherLogic and Chorus today. But I do think they're going to catch up really, really fast. Like I'm really interested in seeing how quickly they make it up. I think on the AI side, they have a slightly different approach from HigherLogic. I think a lot of Gainsight's AI approach is more focusing on the whole customer success and how community feeds in as a signal to that. Whereas HigherLogic is more about boosting participation. I think maybe Gainsight is out boosting the overall return on investment. But they've got a lot of great clients. Their team, the staff, I really like the team that they have there now. And they're really making community a bigger focus than I think it used to be. But I think with Gainsight, a lot of it is very much about integrating everything together. So if community is just one standalone thing, and that's different from all the other departments, then Gainsight might not always be the best option. But overall, Gainsight has a strong track record inside it. Who they acquired for their community experience was good. And so they're catching up fast. I like how they have native customer success integration. I like the onboarding journeys that they have. I think their integration of everything else is just so strong. It's kind of like the way that Salesforce wanted to be when they first launched. I don't think it has the feature set, of course, in HigherLogic yet. And I think sometimes when people don't choose it, it's because it's less customizable. And there's a trade-off we'll see later where customization comes at a cost to ease of use. And so you often have a choice. Analytics can be a little bit complex to set up as well, but it's definitely going for the larger use cases when there's more of a coherent strategy in place and maybe not just the one-off experiences. Okay, Verint. Is anyone on Verint? What to say about Verint? Verint have the worst marketing of all the community platforms that are out there. And I think they probably should get more attention than what they do, but I think the name changes from Intelligent to Verint back and forth as being a challenge for them. And I think sometimes they don't do a good job of articulating who they are and what makes them unique. And so often they're being like the alternative. If you do want Salesforce or Chorus, then Verint would maybe just appear in there. So let's talk about Verint. Verint tend to focus on particular kinds of communities and organizations. They're very good on security. They're very good on customization and flexibility. There's so much you can do with a community on Verint, which doesn't always get as much attention as what it should. I think they took a lot of customers from Jive when Jive went the way of Chorus now. But they do have like a lot of good communities that are on there, that are active, that are engaged. I think one of the challenges I have with Verint is, again, it's kind of a design issue. And yes, it's always the responsibility of the client to design the community. But I think there's some basic settings in place that make the communities look good. And very often when I look at a lot of these sites, they just don't look that great. I always feel like some of these would just really benefit from a designer. I think the other challenge with Verint is that you're probably going to need an implementation firm, often like Social Edge, maybe Kurazidi, to really help set that community up. I mean, with Chorus, there's always been these firms that have been able to help out. Graziti, Glowing Blue, Ingleby. If you want to put your links in chat, feel free. And maybe one or two others. But you didn't always need them. I think with Verint, it's so challenging to use and the learning curve can be so steep. You're probably going to need an implementation firm. Yeah, three-sided as well should be on that list. That's fair. And so I think with Verint, it's very customizable. It's very strong on security. They have clients like the Pentagon. They go after those kinds of firms. Their feature set is quite broad. The granularity is quite deep. So within the features, you have lots of settings that you can tweak and adjust. Good extensibility and integration. But the cons, I think, as I said, a steep learning curve, a lot of external support to launch and maintain. I don't like the design of a lot of the sites, and it tends to be skewed towards certain use cases. And the other thing I didn't even realize until yesterday is that they recently being acquired themselves by Thoma Bravo, which is another firm that I've been looking into. Yeah, so I think there might be an uncertain future there. Usually acquisitions don't tend to go well. Costs are cut, and that doesn't always result in a better experience. So I think the acquisition is a big concern for me and probably why I'd be hesitant to recommend Verint until the dust has settled there a little. Okay, people are asking me about the other platforms that are out there. So that's the old guard. I think if you're looking for more of an established firm that's been around for a long while, all of these offer different options and experiences and pros and cons. I think when we look at the new breed, there's so many different platforms out there that you might consider. And these all target different use cases and different options. And I think each of these has a unique benefit in itself. So Circle, I think we all know Circle. When Circle first came along, actually, I didn't like it at all. I felt like Mighty Networks. I know it's quite popular and that the creative crowd really liked it, but I felt the navigation was a pain. It's difficult to find where everything was. I think Circle's gotten a lot better. And whilst it still primarily targets creators, I think it's at a point where more organizations should be considering it, especially if they want something at a lower price point. And what I like about Circle is that it's modern. Like it feels more of a modern community experience. So you got the left-hand navigation. It's more Facebook style. They're very good at multimedia, where a lot of the platforms that are out today or the old guard simply aren't. They're integrated events, courses, trending posts. I think the real challenge is whether they can handle a huge community. If you have EA Sports or Atlassian or someone using this site, I don't know if that would work. But I think for a lot of communities, especially in the B2B space, those that are a bit smaller, should think about it. At least take a look at it, see if you really need all the extras that the other platforms offer. But generally, yeah, I think Circle is a pretty good platform to consider now. I just think it's a very modern experience. I think it's kind of getting closer to what the typical person expects. Like, I don't think forums are going to be the only way we're going to engage with each other in the future. I think for non-support use cases, especially, like Circle is definitely one I might be considering. And they just have a clean, easy experience to navigate around. One of the challenges, I couldn't find that many public examples of sites to use. But generally, I like what they do. I like their ability to host different multimedia. I like a lot of what they're doing. So again, the benefits here, lower pricing and usage fees, very easy to launch and get going, feed-centric design, which I like, strong integration of events and courses, and AI agents are already active within the community itself. And if you're on Circle, by the way, I'm curious if there's anyone on Circle. Circle doesn't come up that often at the enterprise level, but maybe it should. Some of the downsides should be obvious as well. There's feature caps. Like it doesn't match parity of what the enterprise platforms offer, nor on their security. We're talking to a client yesterday, and she is asking why it's so cheap compared to the others, and it's because generally you can't customize it that much. Circle is what it is, and you can make a few changes here and there, but it's basically one version of the product that is going to go out everywhere, and you're not paying for that personal touch and support. It's difficult to migrate an experience to Circle. Like I can't even think that would be possible for a major site, maybe, but I don't think it'd be possible to migrate a large existing site to Circle. Unlimited moderation and services support as well. Okay, Gradual. Anyone on Gradual? Yeah, Piper saying that Carrie Melissa Jones used it. Yeah, on Circle. Yeah, I think I haven't been in her community, but yeah, I think it's probably great. Gradual, team at Gradual. So Gradual, kind of a new platform. I hadn't really heard that much about them until a couple of years ago. Myself and a colleague of mine I think we were in disagreement about Gradual, but I think it's an honest disagreement. I think Gradual is generally a great platform for certain use cases. I think the team, as Rob's saying here, is really easy to work with. And I think they really offer like a modern looking community experience. I think they're very good at content centric experiences. I think they're very good at event centric experiences. I think they're really good at a lot of the basics. What they don't really have is a huge amount of depth in how you can customize the site. I think they're developing and changing things quickly, but as far as I'm aware, you can't have the discussions on the homepage of the community. But they're a great option for clients that don't need all the bells and whistles and want something that looks amazing, is on brand, and is easy to use. The team is great to work with, but it'll be interesting to see how, if and how that changes as they grow, because obviously there's complexity there. But I just really like how they display the experience. I think they're very good at the content and event side. I really think that they shine. I think a lot more community, especially if there aren't a lot of questions that people have, which is where you need with a support experience, then this is great. If you're going to be hosting a lot of events, I think Gradual is a great option. So it's very good for that content and event-led approach. The questions still leaves a lot to be desired. And it looks a little bit bare in some communities at times, but generally they're a good option. They do groups okay as well. But generally Gradual is for content and events. If that's what's leading your community, that's what unite people, that's how you get in the community off the ground, then Gradual is a great option. I think they're very good at combining events, content, one-to-one matching is good. I think they are very easy at getting the site up and running. Like because there isn't much you could actually change, it's very easy to launch a site quickly. But that comes at a con, which is you can't customize the experience that much right now today. There's a lack of integration with many of the common tools that are out there. And there's just a lack of granularity. And I haven't really seen them deploy AI in any deep way yet. I think the small team is going to be interesting how they keep up with what the other platforms are doing. But as an alternative, that's just kind of lightweight, get up and running and start building your community in something that looks great. I think Gradual is a very good option to work with. BetterMode. How many of you are with BetterMode? By the way, I can't cover every platform. I'm going to do my best to cover the main ones or the ones that we see are coming up at the moment. Kim, what's your experience of BetterMode? BetterMode I've known for a while. I think BetterMode, they've gone through some iterations that I think have been quite good for them. I think BetterMode generally has that, again, that left-hand navigation, a pretty good experience. I think they've been evolving quite fast. I don't like what BetterMode are doing. I guess if there's a criticism, and there are a few, is like nothing really stands out as amazing. Like I think BetterMode is fine. It's an acceptable platform, but I don't really get this is what BetterMode does better than any of the other platforms that are out there today. It feels like an also ran at the moment, which doesn't mean you shouldn't consider it at the right price point. Definitely makes sense. But I'm still waiting to see like what do they do that's so much better than everyone else. Maybe they do combine the discussions with a feed style experience. I think that's good. But generally, I think better mode it's an option. It doesn't wow me, it doesn't disappoint me. I think it's got a lot further to go. But yeah, I generally think the design usually is pretty good, pretty modern, it's easy to set up, it's lightweight. So it's a community platform I would consider. I don't know if I'd be migrating off Chorus to it. I don't even know if that's possible, but I definitely think it's a option to consider. I don't really have that much on them, really. I would just say I don't know the team like that well. Yeah, I don't have the same relationships with them that I have with some of the other vendors in the space. But again, the pros, it's easy just to get up and running, low price point. You kind of see where the groupings are here. But can it handle a large scale site? I don't know. I'd have to see some that are on it. The feature set's a bit limited automation and workflow. And again, no deep integration of AI that I saw yet, especially compared with some of the other companies that are out there. And as Rob's saying as well, they have a few language localizations, limitations as well. And I just don't know if it's ready for prime time, as they say. Bevy, how many of you are with Bevy? I mean, Bevy for your forum, not just your user groups. So it wouldn't surprise me if no one is on Bevy from here, because Bevy's probably one of the newest forum-based experiences that are out there today. A really interesting one. I was hoping to do a deeper demo yesterday, but I couldn't because of all the solicitor stuff I had to deal with. From what I've seen of Bevy, and I don't have the depth of information to have with some of the other platforms that are out there, I think Adobe's probably their biggest client, but maybe they can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But clean, it's modern, it's pretty good, it's pretty strong. I like what Bevy are trying to do. Yeah, so generally I like Bevy. I don't have too much out on it. They have a reasonable level of granularity in the features and permissionings and settings. Their gamification I liked. I think their gamification tools are quite strong. The sites look clean, okay. Nothing that blows you away, but it's pretty clean. I did think when I was exploring the site, some of them loaded a little bit slow, but that might just be me. But yeah, I think like Bevy, again, is an option. It's interesting to me that a lot of their marketing is targeted towards price. Like we're going to be cheaper than the platforms that are out there. I'm not sure if that's going to work as well as they hope, but it might do. But I think Bevy with Adobe have shown they can handle a very large scale site, which is quite interesting. I think they combine events really, really well. I think they've got user groups that are integrated in there. So I think Bevy is a fine experience. I think it should be on your list. If you're looking for a cheaper alternative to some of the enterprise platforms that are out there. And as Derek was saying, they charge by engagement, not by page views, which is an interesting model. I think so. I just think it's worth exploring. I didn't really get an understanding of what their pricing model is. I think a while back they were saying we'll be Chorus, but 25% less. Which, yeah, I think maybe just some clarity in the marketing and the pricing would be really useful. But as a site, I think it's good. Probably not as modern as some of the other in looks as some of the other platforms that are out there, but they don't have any of the technical debt. I think it's probably the newest forum experience. A lot of it is built with AI in mind. It's very integrated at the moment. So with events and user groups, if you're on Bevy at the moment, the forum is actually a great experience. If you're already using that elsewhere, I think Bevy would really benefit from, you might really benefit from using Bevy. It's clutter-free, as we've seen. AI agents already working there. I think my con is, yeah, the unknown. It doesn't mean don't use it, but I just don't know enough about it at the moment. I think I'd love to see some more large-scale clients that are on it. And it's not as granular or as broad on the feature set. Yep, and I want to see some more AI integration into it and see how that works. Okay, Hivebrite. Anyone with Hivebrite? This is the last one. Oh yeah, I mean, I mentioned it earlier, but the gamification of Bevy was really, really strong. Hivebrite is one of these platforms where they come from the alumni space. I think they're based in France, so I might be wrong about that. So they're a little bit different from the other platforms that are out there. I think they're interesting, but I kind of feel they kind of fall in the same category as BetterMode to me. Whereas like Bevy maybe has the AI side that pushes them ahead of the other platforms. I think with Hivebrite, I look at their platform and it kind of feels like the experience you'd have on Facebook maybe 10 years ago. So it's okay. It's got some features that I think are quite strong. I think the biggest standout thing of Hivebrite is the member directory. I think if that's what you want, if you're building a community, I think the one thing I really need is a member directory. Then Hivebrite might be the right option to go with. So I think they're very good in the alumni space because of that. Associations, I think they're good with the chapter models. I think they integrate a lot of things together. But when I look at them, they're just kind of, yeah, they're okay. I don't hate them. It just, I don't know, I just need more. I don't have super strong feelings on Hivebrite, really. I think they're worth considering if you're looking at the lower end of the scale. I don't really have too much to add on Hivebrite. So yeah, great for structured sites. Member directory is amazing, but just not as advanced in other features elsewhere. So on the new breed, I think we've already gone through the pros and cons, but Circle is great for creators. So I think more B2B brands should consider it at the smaller scale. Like at the massive scale, I don't think Circle is the right option. I think their BetterMode will be interesting, Gradual will be interesting. Hivebrite is good for very specific types of communities that are out there. But yeah, I think they all have some options. And so this is my opinion. I spent a long time trying to get this exactly right, but this is generally how I'm seeing the platform field at the moment, where if you look at customizable versus ease of use on the administrative side and breadth of features and simplicity on the other axis, I think this is how I see things. And there's no definitive right answer for what's the best platform that's out there. That's like asking what's the best car, right? It really depends on what you're looking at, what you're considering, and what you think makes sense to you. I think Verint is probably the most customizable and has the widest breadth of features that are out there on par with HigherLogic and Khoros, maybe Gainsight a little bit less on that scale. But again, it's very difficult to use, or not very, but it's more complex to use. So there's an obvious cost to all these things. Discourse, I think, is simple in one way, but highly customizable in another. It doesn't have that great breadth of features to use. Gainsight, I think, is catching up fast on the customizable side. Circle, I think, has a nice little space there. Bevy, I think, is going to be the one that I'm really curious to see how they go. I think there's a lot of potential in it. I think on the AI side, they're strong. I just want to see like a deeper track record. I want to see more of what they do. I think that's definitely an interesting option. And then you have like the simple and the ease of use options. I put Discord and Slack in there just for comparison. And also some platforms I didn't really consider. Florum, I think, is good as a lightweight forum alternative. InVision, I think Matt's here. Honestly, I don't know much about InVision. I like Matt a lot, so be in touch with Matt if you're looking for another option. I don't know if Standing on Giants still have a platform. I know they were pushing it for a while, a couple of years ago. I don't know if they still are. I think they had Tesco or someone on it. I don't know enough about it. There's no slat on them. I just don't know enough about it. Okay, so which platform should you use? And honestly, there are so many factors that go into this. So for me, a lot of people go at it from the organization side. We tend to come at it from the audience experience side, like what kind of experience do we want to offer? Then what kind of platform is best within that? And so the first thing we think about is what kind of community are we trying to build? And by the way, if you're doing a drum roll expecting one answer, there just isn't one answer. But I think it's first really worth figuring out what kind of community you're trying to build. Like for a success community, it's different from a support community. User groups, obviously, very different from peer groups. And if your audience is small, it's a very different approach compared to if your audience is big. So really think about what kind of experience you're trying to use. Phil's asking if Personify or Small World is still around. I don't think so. I don't think so. And based upon this, you'll give you some options of what categories you should be considering. I think the really big thing is whether it's purely support or whether you want to be more than support. I think that's a very big distinction, and whether it's going to be 80-20 or whether it's going to be more balanced. If your community like, say, Gong, then it would make sense to use a support-centric site like Discourse. And so all these kind of things come into play. All these things come into play. And then again, your needs, goals, member preferences, size of the audience. But I do think this is how I'm thinking about it at the moment. Gainsight, I think if you're a large enterprise that wants more than just a support experience and you have a strategy that is integrated, not where community is a standalone department and team and isn't really integrated with everything else, I think Gainsight is a good option to consider. HigherLogic, yeah, I think as the most probably like alternative to Course. Like if you're just not happy with where Course at the moment and you want to move, I think HigherLogic will probably offer you the most similar experience. They're probably pretty good customizations, although Bevy was saying they would be great at that too. But HigherLogic would probably be the right option for you. Verint, if you want an extreme level of customization or security, I think Verint's a good option. Discourse would be really interesting if you're a Chorus customer that only cares about support, where it's just support questions and answers, like the gaming ones they have might be great. Like companies like maybe O2 or some of the B2C ones would be great. I think Discourse would be a really strong option there. Bevy, if you already got a user group experience, I think they would be great to add a form to it. I would put them in the mix with some of the seeing what they've done with Adobe. I put them in the mix with some of the other platforms that are out there. Hivebrite, I think it's still a bit of a niche player. I think they tend to go at the lower end of the market and they target very specific kinds of platforms and companies, and they do it quite well. Gradual, if it's a content-led community experience, I think they're a bit pricey for what they do, but Gradual, I think, is a good option. And Circle, yeah, early stage communities, creators, consultants, that kind of vibe. And maybe some of the smaller B2B brands. And if you want to test a community experience, then I think Circle is a good option too. But I want to just stop here and open things up to questions or chat or anything that comes in. Try to use the chat experience rather than Q&A. I'll try and get to Q&A. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. And the chat was quite busy, so I'm not going to scroll back to see what questions were asked in the past. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. And hopefully this webinar was useful. Sorry to spend a little bit too much time on the legal aspects, of course, but yeah. Okay, Daryl, opinion on Sprinkler. I don't know enough about them, to be honest. I don't know that many platforms that are using them. Honestly, I haven't really considered them. So I can't really give you a good answer on that. Sorry. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them now. I thought the polls, of course, were really interesting. So thank you for that. Do any other platforms that I should be considering or looking at? How many of you are in the process of moving off Chorus at the moment? And which platform are you moving to? Yeah, I think Vanilla is the one that's I think Vanilla and Gainsight from the old guard have really impressed me recently. Eric, we're on course and looking to move by the end of the contract early next year. Yeah, what's driving you to move? I'm curious what's your experience being, if you don't mind sharing. Claudius has put together something from the association side of things. Feel free to check that out in chat. Yeah, Gainsight have invested a lot. Like I was surprised by how much they invested. I mean, there is a strong side of me that thinks a lot of companies are trying to replicate a business model that failed instead of pioneering what the future looks like. And that's why I think the new breed of platforms are really interesting to explore. Q&A, let me check out some of the Q&A questions. I'm not going to share any private discussions I've had with any of the Chorus staff or any of that. Yeah, I did have a lot of people from Chorus that reached out to me and yeah, said a lot of things, but I don't want to use any of that. Rob asked a question that people can answer in chat. Which features are most important to you? What else we have in Q&A? What do I think of Jake working for Chorus? What do I think of Jake working for Chorus? Oh, I like Jake. I mean, we spoke about it at the event in London. Jake's awesome, and I think he introduced me to gravy and biscuits in Austin a while back. So we had a conversation. I won't repeat it here, but I don't know if we came to an agreement, but it wasn't like a hostile discussion at all. And I think it's better the Chorus do have like a community person involved. I hope it works out. I'm not confident. There's no slight on him, but Yeah, much more the best. Like I like Jake. Biscuits and gravy, was that it? Yeah, so did I see that Michael left course? Yeah, I saw that Michael left. Yeah, I don't really have much out of me. I like Michael too. I think it's always challenging. Like one of the challenges I run into is I try to be very independent and try to talk openly about my thoughts on the platforms. And it's always difficult when people I like work at those platforms. I remember, who was it? HigherLogic thought I hated them for years. I don't, but I just found they were more sensitive to things than the other vendors were. Yeah. Who's at Bevy now? Jennifer, what are the most AI forward companies? I think that's using AI very broadly. Yeah, I think that's a very broad way of using AI. So I think I want to be more specific. Yes, Tony, I was referring to Michael. I don't know how to say his last name. Bahala? Bahala? But no, Michael's great. Like, I think it's always a little bit of conflict when he's representing course and I'm being a bit critical of them. But Michael's great. He's been around a long time and deserves all the respect he gets. Yeah, and the course team were great. Honestly, like a lot of the team were great. It's sad that it went the way it did. Oh, really, Kevin? I'm not like his best friend, so I don't know what to call him, honestly. We spoke a bunch of times and collaborated, so yeah, I don't. If I'm calling him the wrong name, then sorry. Any other questions? If you want to connect with each other, feel free to share your LinkedIn in chat as well. Obviously, don't spam it, but if you wanted to share your LinkedIn profile, then feel free. Do any of you have AI search you love and know what model it's using? A lot of people shared their AI search functionality. I'm trying to think who was good. Bevy, I think, had good search. HigherLogic, I think, had good search. Gainsight, I'm not so sure about. Verint, I don't know. Yeah. Any other questions? Has this webinar helped? I was a little bit nervous about doing it because obviously what might happen now, but I don't think I've been unfair to Chorus. I think I've been pretty, yeah, fair to them. What's so frustrating? I would love to have Chorus here. I tried several times to get them to join a webinar to put questions for them. I tried so hard. It's such a shame they've decided to go the legal route instead. So yeah, if I vanish from LinkedIn, you know why. And yeah, but this will probably be the last time I talk about Chorus, to be honest, because I don't think they're really a viable option anymore. I'm just being tired about IgniteTech. Yeah, I mean, I don't know IgniteTech at all. I know Jake, obviously, but I only met Debo there, but I never met anyone else from IgniteTech. I never really interacted with anyone else there. So, yeah. How do we reach you if you get kicked off LinkedIn? Richard at Feedbe.com. And if it happens, it happens. LinkedIn isn't a huge deal. I might be more productive, really. Sarah, can you believe some companies are dealing with SFDC promoting their dead community platform? Okay, so Salesforce, I think I'd be a bit more open with them because they haven't threatened me with a lawsuit yet. You should leave Salesforce. They're not developing it. It's a worse, it's falling further and further behind. So Salesforce just isn't really an option that you should be considering at this point. Like, yeah, Salesforce and Course wouldn't be on my list anymore. Other platforms for sure. All of these platforms here, I would take a look at, and some of the other ones that I mentioned and didn't talk much about, like Envision, who else? Flarum as an open source option. Standing on Giants. Again, like Standing on Giants, I need to get a demo or something of that platform because I know so little about it. But yeah, feel free to share your LinkedIn to connect and chat with each other. Oh, I was meant to do the promotional part at the end. Yeah, if you want to chat or to get help or to get unbiased advice, then reach out to me. I'm happy to help guide you through the process if we can. And I think that's good. I know that the chat is really good in this session, but what I might do is set up a separate place to chat for people that are interested in discussing the platform side only. Let me think about it. Maybe like a short-term group so it's not like an indefinite debt I have to pay. But thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your participation. I appreciate your contributions. Which platform would you use for a chat? I don't know, maybe a WhatsApp group after all this. Thank you so much, everyone. I really hope you found this useful, and I'll see you at the next webinar we do at some point in the future, I guess. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.